Hello friends, I am so thrilled to share with you KPMG Scrum Master interview questions with answer. Some of these questions are very specific and will test your practical experience as a senior Scrum Master. So friends, watch complete video till end with detailed explanation. Please turn on captions for this video for better understanding. Friends, before we get into the interview questions, a very quick warm welcome from myself. My name is Sunandsharrma, that's me in the center of the screen. I'm Agile consultant based in Den Haag, Netherlands, and I am helping people from last 2 years to successfully pass their interviews. I always do that by giving you top scoring real world interview questions with detailed answers you can't find anywhere else. Friends, please make sure you subscribe by clicking the button below the video, and then you won't miss out any of the weekly videos I'm uploading. And I would also appreciate your support if you gave a video a big thumbs up in a form of a like. Your one like is a big motivation for me because that's tell me you enjoy the content and I will create more for you. Thank you very much. Question number first. What are the three words that describe you best? This is an alternative way to ask what is your greatest strength. And the purpose behind this is to understand how your personality aligns with the goals of the company and the requirements of the post. For many people, talking about themselves is a tricky domain for two reasons. Either they are arrogant or that they are too modest. Either they will talk too much or they won't be self-aware enough to know their strength. The question is, in that manner, can also be a great assessment of these qualities. So the tip number one is you need to pick three words that reflect your actual strengths. Offering a generic answer will not help you to stand out in the crowd. Let's see the sample answer. The three words that best describe me are methodical, innovative, and go-getter. As a Scrum Master, I pay attention to detail and emphasizes a method-led approach rather than a person-led approach. Therefore, any changes to the personnel on my team don't affect the overall workflow and team manage to complete the work on time. Also, I am always open to new ideas. Initially in my career, I preferred a trial and error process for figuring out the best ways to complete a project. Therefore, the approach changed from a project to project. Eventually, I tried different methodologies like PMBOK and Agile, and now I stick to the Agile for the most part. Why I feel I am a go-getter is that despite believing in delegation, I am hands-on with my work. I also like to get my hands dirty and never miss an opportunity to train and educate. Question number two. What motivates you to do your best on the job? Now, employers wants to know about your motivations because it helps them to understand how goal-oriented and driven towards success you are. Your self-motivation means that you have priorities of a job that extend themselves past the monetary value that a company can offer because it helps them to understand what would fulfill you the most. Now, very first tip is you have to think long and hard about the best days that you had at your previous job or the times that you came back from the office excited to narrate a new story. Tip number two is this might take a lot of self-reflection, so buckle up. Sample answer is I love a good challenge, and I often find myself trying new things and taking up projects that are different than anything I have done before. I find the learning experience to be exciting, and I often try to beat the goal I have set for myself previously. I love interacting with people, and I find it to be the best part of my job. My goal is to always to help customers, team members understand their needs and solve their problems. Another thing that motivates me is when team manage to complete a project within a schedule and meeting with clients' requirements. On some of the projects, the end result, whether it's a product or a service, will benefit my clients tremendously. It gives me satisfaction knowing that I have contributed to the outcome. Question number three. How do you motivate your team? Interviewers who ask this question want to assess your social skills and how responsive you are with your team members. They want to know how you will work with the entire team to get a job done collectively and what tactics you have in your place for when they feel demotivated. This also offers a glance at your leadership skills, communication, and management styles. Tip number one, because every team in every project is different, so there is no right or wrong way to answer this. A real life example would be the best way to go about it. Tip number two, narrate an incident. Explain the situation, what you did, and the positive outcome. So you can jot it down something like this. My formula for a motivated team is to get to know them, uncover what they are passionate about, and find out how they personally like to be recognized. If I am able to provide them with the proper recognitions, tasks that they enjoy and feel they are good at, then they will perform as motivated employees. At my previous job, there was a time when a couple of people were laid off mid project, and it really demotivated the rest of the team. Plus, there was an extra burden of the work until new people were hired and trained. I had a one to one meeting with each member of the team to fix the issue. This was not just so that they could let their frustration out in a safe space, but also so I could pick their brain on what could be the best way to manage things. Afterwards, we had a collective meeting, and I put all the things I learned from them individually all in front of them. Together, the whole team brainstormed solutions and made a time effective game plan. Although the project got delayed more than the original plan, it went by very effectively. The team worked together in a healthier setting than they would have, and I felt that they were very energized after they had the brainstorming session together. Question number 5. You might using the burn down chart to estimate the date when the Scrum projects end. It's often described like this. Estimate all features of the product and sum them up, that is total story points. Run a few sprints to get team's velocity. Divide total story points by the velocity. If this is how it is supposed to work, then the first question that comes is, how do we estimate whole features? We can estimate small user stories because we more and less understand the amount of work required to complete them, and therefore we can roughly compare these amounts. But at the beginning of the project, we only have a general understanding of features our product is comprised of. We are also going to change these features as we do customer development. So how can we estimate the initial scope of the project in a story points? So theoretically, yes, you could use a burn down chart to estimate when all of the work in the product backlog would be completed. However, in practice, and as you are seeing, it does not always work out. So using a burn down chart to estimate completion relies on a few assumptions, such as that the product backlog is well understood and is generally static. However, these are usually not true statements. The team tends to focus its efforts on understanding the highest priority work at the top of the backlog and only minimal efforts, if any at all, to understand less important work. So as you move down the backlog, the work tends to be larger and less well defined. The product backlog is also frequently changing between the product owner's regular work in understanding the stakeholder needs, feedback obtained in sprint reviews, and the feedback from other sources as the product is used. The content of the product backlog may change. So in practice, the idea that you can forecast the completion of an effort is inherently not agile. In agile, the scope is not committed to. The end of the effort is when the cost of the delivering the next unit exceeds the value that it would offer. By not spending efforts to define and commit to scope allows the team to respond to feedback and incorporates what is learned about the operational space of the product. So I would suggest that there is not much of a difference between trying to use a burn down chart to estimate completion and a big upfront planning that does not work in domains that have a high amount of uncertainty. Question number 6. Our dev teams keep finding ourselves in a scenarios where we have multiple stories, none of which actually provide usable value by themselves. In order to deliver any real value, we need to complete bunch of them together. If we group together into a large stories, they are too large and unpredictable, and if any of them remains unfinished, we cannot deploy the lot. So example is the user needs to be able to log in into an account section of the website to see their orders and manage their profile. So we would attempt to break this down into a small stories which focus one piece of functionality each. Maybe something like this with examples like as a user I can log into, as a user I can log out, as a user I can view a list of my order, as a user I can view my personal profile, as a user I can edit my personal profile. We could deliver just the login functionality, but without an account section to actually log into, what's the point? Similarly, what's the point of having a login without a logout function? So should we then have one large stories which involve logging in, logging out, and viewing the list of orders? In such a case, the size probably become an 8 points. And we have found that stories over 5 points don't work well for us and often derail the sprint because the estimates was inaccurate. So if we finish the sprint and you cannot view a list of order yet, most of the other stories are sort of useless until the end of the next sprints when those are finished. This and then doubles the amount of time, 2 sprints, until we can actually deliver some value to the client. Another issue here is we don't know where to include the effort required to build the account section itself. So it needs a general page design, maybe a menu at minimum. In order to view a list of orders, we need some sort of account page section design and built as well. So where should that work to be included? It does not seem right for us to have a built account section story. It does not actually have anything other than a blank page with a menu. So let's say if we were to, for some reason, add the built account section, work with the view order story, how does one then complete the view personal profile story, which also needs that account section built? Okay, so how should we write stories which cover the requirements? How do we eliminate the dependencies they have on each other? How can we prevent business values from being dependent on multiple user stories in Scrum? So user stories are not meant to be a measure of business value. As a rule of thumb, each sprint should deliver a potential realizable increment of product, but nothing required that each iteration deliver X amount of value. User stories just represent invest size unit of work that collectively deliver the element of the products that the product owner and by the extension the stakeholder think will provide value. In Scrum, product value is generally found in the incremental delivery of sprint goals. Every sprint should have a goal, and the goal usually represents a unit of overall product value. That unit may be standalone, or it may be part of large theme or epic that won't be marketable until complete. The product must always be a potential shippable state at the end of each sprint. But that does not mean every sprint must ship an addition of the product or that multi-sprint release planning is not an essential activity for the product owner. From your question, it looks like that your sprint lacks the central coherence of a sprint goal to express the organizational value of each iteration. This is required by the Scrum framework. Further, your agile implementation may have skipped an agile release plan that express the aggregate value or the fitness for purpose of a specific product milestones. While not explicitly a feature of the Scrum framework, agile release planning is incorporated into the product owner's role. As a product owner, it's your job to apply your product vision and the development team's expertise to the product backlog and determine how many features are needed and how many sprint it will likely to take to deliver those necessary features in order to release a usable, saleable version of the product under development. Some product can release in very small increments. Cloud native software is one such example. Other products require significant more value to make a compelling release. So for example, no one would release a whole new edition of an encyclopedia after changing a single section. So how big or featureful a release needs to be for your product will depend on the product, your industry, and your market. Thanks everyone for watching part 1. Part 2 will coming soon. So please hit a like and subscribe for more such videos. Thanks. Have a nice day.